The Bible gives us the counsel of God, the counselor of counselors. Through a dialogue, we will study some biblical passages about hope. So let us join with the lead discipler in his conversation with Tom, the disciple. We're going to look at Romans 8:28 and 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4. So let's all open our Bibles, please, and let's look up Romans 8, verse 28, and let's see what God tells us. Tom, please read Romans 8:28 for us.
And we know that God causes all things to work together for good, to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose.
Thank you. Tom, according to the second part of Romans 8, verse 28, what is the promise?
God causes all things to work together for good. I do believe it, but I do not understand how it will work out for me.
Tom, God makes a promise, and it is the truth, but we must consider what comes along with the promise. What does God say in the first part of Romans 8, verse 28?
And we know that God causes all things to work together for good, to those who love God.
That's correct. You see, the condition that comes along with the promise that he will work all things for good says that it is for those who love God.
I think I love God.
Well, this is going to be important, since loving God is a condition for all things to work together for good. When we love God, we also show love to others. Tom, in what sense do you say that things don't seem to be working out for good for you?
Because of the way my spouse mistreats me. Let me explain. My spouse is so insensitive and always has been. The other night, my spouse started arguing with me. She raised her voice and I started saying a lot of things.
Tom, how did you respond when your spouse started arguing with you?
You see, I have not been able to tell you everything my spouse said to me, and our children heard many very ugly things, and our youngest daughter cried almost all the time while my spouse argued with me.
Tom, we know that you have not been able to tell us everything that happened, but now please tell us, how did you respond when your spouse started arguing with you?
The truth is that I was very angry and did not wait for her to keep saying all those things. I also raised my voice and I say some things to her.
Tom, God tells us what the actions and expressions of love are in his word. So let's look in the Bible. We're going to look up 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 4. And let's see what God tells us through Paul. Tom, please read verse 4 of 1 Corinthians 13.
Love is patient, love is kind, and is not jealous. Love does not brag and is not arrogant.
Thank you. Tom, what is the first characteristic of love according to what God says through Paul in the first part of 1 Corinthians 13:4?
Love is patient.
Thank you. That's true. Now, Tom, were you patient during the fight with your spouse?
Part of the time, yes, but a lot of the time I was not.
Tom, you see in verses 4 through 7, there are other characteristics of love.
I see that things don't work together for good for me because I don't show love to God. It's evident from the way I haven't shown love towards my spouse. I'm going to write something down in the homework section of my notebook. During this week, I am going to memorize 1 Corinthians 13:4, and every day I will examine my life based on 1 Corinthians 13:4-7 to see if I have been or have not been a loving spouse.
Yes, the Lord bless you. And Tom, this is excellent. And please tell this commitment to God in prayer. Amen.